Hello and welcome back to After This is Sports Podcast. I'm again joined by Jonathan, and we are officially, I think, what is it, halfway or a quarter of the way through the season?
Yeah, quarter of the way through.
Yeah, some of the games last week, we didn't have as crazy of a week in terms of upsets as week three. I don't think it was as impressive in terms of big matchups as like week one, but this was a really solid week.
Mhm.
I felt that like we saw a lot from teams and kind of like we saw what we needed to see from all of
Yeah,
them.
definitely an interesting week when it comes to narratives, I'll say.
Yeah. Real quick, just like the schedule, what we're trying to do today. I was thinking going over some of the bigger games, bigger results, talking about the implications. We have another coach who got fired. It's like a weekly occurrence at this rate.
Ryan Harson's up next.
Harson, I mean, maybe it would have been Mike Norvell if he lost, but
No, the Knowles are 3-0, baby.
yeah. But we are also trying to just go through maybe some of our rankings that we do every week, which is a lot of fun. Compare them to the AP poll, compare them to each other. Let's get right into it. First game I want to talk about was a Friday night matchup. I was watching it. I know you were watching it as well. Florida State is now 3-0 after a win on the road against Louisville. And you have some very outspoken ideas about what Louisville should do with their football program. So I'll let you take this one away.
Yeah, I like. Here's the thing. I don't think Scott Satterfield is a very good coach, and I think the first 3 weeks of the season was not so make or break for him because he obviously still has 9 more games to play on his schedule. But this is a Louisville team that had aspirations to win a lot of football games this year. Like, I don't think it was unrealistic to come into the season and say this team could probably finish second in the ACC Atlantic. And they've now dropped their first 2 conference games in the first 3 weeks. They narrowly escaped a group of 5 UCF team who I don't think is that great because the group of 5 this year as a whole isn't great. And I think Louisville could just maybe do better than Satterfield. You brought him into a program that was kind of post Lamar Jackson and had a lot of rebuilding to do after losing him. And he's had pretty much all the time in the world he's needed. I think he got this job in 2019 and this is his fourth year. 4 years should be enough to see what you need to see. I know he's got a good recruiting class 2023. And as you say, recruiting will usually buy you time, but this team, like what I saw from them on Friday night was interesting because they outgained Florida State. They outrushed them. They had more first downs, but they shot themselves in the foot with turnovers and penalties. They had 11 penalties on Friday night. And that's a thing like that is just not something you want to see from a team that's under a 4th-year coach that's supposed to have this program heading in the right direction.
Yeah, I mean, I will say it, just to add some context. I was a fan of the Satterfield hire. I thought that he was going to make them very much like almost like a fraudulent Big Ten team in the sense that they were going to build their lines. They're going to be strong. They're going to try to push teams around.
Yeah.
I thought that was going to be interesting to see how they do that after what Lamar Jackson did. And so it always felt like they were trying to get to that point, but they still were trying to get to the Lamar Jackson like type like offenses that they had, which I thought they should have been running the ball a lot more. They played Malik Cunningham, who I actually think is a very talented player. The offense just didn't have the weapons it needed. But in terms of Satterfield, like you mentioned the recruiting, and I would like to see what the difference is between the amount of leeway we give coaches with the recruiting now, just because like if Satterfield leaves, that doesn't mean that the recruits aren't going to get paid in NIL. Mm-hmm. Like the recruits get paid in NIL no matter who's the coach, right?
Yeah.
So if you're worried about Satterfield being fired and they're losing this great recruiting class, I wouldn't be all that worried if you're a Louisville fan, because the next guy you bring in, most likely, like those recruits will still get paid and they'll probably win more football games. So,
yeah. And Louisville isn't this super historic brand. Like I know they had good teams with Lamar, and even those teams were kind of teams that fell off in the second half of the year. but I just think that we've gotten to a point with Satterfield, and I think we're kind of getting to a point with some other coaches too, where it's just like we've seen what we need to see, and no matter what recruits we bring in and how historic these classes are for our program, are the results going to be any different because we don't like
Jimbo Fisher.
The coach here at Mizzou is kind of catching criticism in that aspect right now too.
Yeah, I mean, I want to go from that to at least for me, a little bit more of an upbeat note, in the sense that the team that I said at the beginning of the year was going to surprise everyone in the Pac-12 and the country. I said this team was going to be really, really good. And you know what? We had Jack on here, and Jack said, no way. I believe we tweeted out about this, got people saying no way. But just like clockwork, Michigan State goes on the road to Washington, gets absolutely obliterated. The score is way closer than the game was. They did not belong in the field. Washington was way better in every single aspect of the game. And I want to kind of separate this into two parts, because I think it's really important that we acknowledge what Washington did. Like, even though I don't think, like, both of us weren't as high on Michigan State, we can talk about them after. But what Washington did under Kalen DeBoer and Michael Penix was, in my opinion, one of the better offensive showcasing we've seen so far out of anyone.
Yeah.
They clicked on all levels. And I remember I texted you this during the game. Like, this reminded me of 2019 Indiana. And what were the reasons why 2019 Indiana were so good? It's because they had DeBoer calling the plays, and they had Penix playing elite level football.
Yeah.
And people don't remember this, but that Indiana team, even though it was a COVID year, they played Ohio State tough. They had like what, 350 yards, few through passes.
I mean, those wide receivers were consistently torching that secondary, and people will tell you that game wasn't as close as the score will tell you, but it was. Indiana had the ball with a chance to tie the game.
And so I don't know why people weren't high on Washington to begin with, because if we're talking about coaches who have wins and losses, Kalen DeBoer is 81-9, 81 wins, 9 losses, 81 wins, 9 losses. And guess what? He was out Indiana for a little bit. He is probably my favorite young coach. I would expect that he gets a big time offer, at least. Maybe not in the next few years. Washington's a good job. Like, he probably likes it.
And they could be on the move in conference realignment too.
Well, I mean, that's the other aspect. Like, to me, he's a top tier coach, and to me, he should be at a place where he's going to be given the resources he needs to succeed.
I can't remember the stat they said on the Cover 3 podcast exactly today, but I want to say that on the show they said like Washington in the first half gained like 322 out of 323 possible yards in the first half. Like, their offense in the first half was unstoppable, and part of that
also they got stopped on the 1 yard line. This story could have been so much worse.
Part of that, by the way, was that Michigan State's pass defense is just abysmal once again. But like, this Washington team, you're right. They're a very pleasant surprise for me. I know you said they aren't for you, but Penix is playing well again. Their wide receivers are very underrated, by the way. That's a position group over there that people should have taken notice in the offseason, because that might be Washington's best position group. And I think there was a clear matchup disadvantage here with how well Washington threw the ball and how poorly Michigan State defended the pass. And from the beginning, like, don't let this final score trick you. Michigan State recovered an onside punt in the fourth quarter. Washington took their foot off the brakes. Like, this was a blowout. Washington never had a chance of losing this game.
I mean, Washington's defense was something I was a little bit interested in, because they lost all those great cornerbacks to the NFL draft. They were really good. They were really, really good. Besides the few plays, I believe, in the second quarter where what's his face? The tight end for Michigan State. Oh, Keon Coleman, the basketball player who everyone loves to say is a basketball player. He played like maybe got in for like one game in garbage time. So like, whatever.
13 targets.
No, he was really, really good. He's one of the bright spots on this team. But Washington's defensive line really controlled the game. And the only chance that Michigan State had to move the ball was Peyton Thorne just running around and being really good. I was very impressed with Peyton Thorne. Wasn't impressed with the Michigan State running attack. Wasn't impressed with the Michigan State defense at all. And I wasn't impressed with the coaching either. So.
Yeah. 1.4 yards to get a carry against a Minnesota team that's really good against the run is just not going to cut it. It's just not.
So let's talk this a little bit. Like, is this game more on Washington being very good and underrated, or is it more on Michigan State just not like going to be a very good football team in the Big Ten?
I think it's a little of both. I would lean towards the Washington side just because I don't think anybody could have expected them to come out and be this explosive offensively. Like, you could say that Penix was going to bounce back with DeBoer, but like what they did on Saturday night was just super impressive. Michigan State, I texted you this earlier. They are staring down the barrel of being under 500 in mid-October after that Michigan game. Like,
95 million.
This is just unbelievable how tough the schedule is. They get Minnesota at home this week. Then they got to go to Maryland. Then they got Ohio State at home, who Ohio State's just going to torch them again. And then Wisconsin at home, bye at Michigan. And then, by the way, after that, they have to go to Illinois, who's not a bad team. This schedule is ridiculously hard. And, like, I don't know why people expected this team who lost the best running back in college football last year and a couple key players up front to just kind of continue these fluky wins that they had last year. But they are going to get beat a lot of times this year. And I texted you this earlier. The whole tuck coming to the Pinstripe Bowl, boys. So that's where we're headed.
Yeah, and I engaged a lot of Sparty fans. You know, obviously like Michigan. So I don't want to like rag on too much because again, like I'm a Michigan fan, so of course it just brings a smile to my face. But
yeah,
what this team looks like is it looks like a team that lost Kenneth Walker and everything else was the same. I mean, their pass defense wasn't good last year.
Yeah, and they're not exactly. I know they got the two tight ends that are playing well for them, but they're not exactly deep at receiver either after losing Naylor.
So yeah, like I was always skeptical about what they could do. I thought they're gonna be a solid team. I didn't think they were gonna come out this inept, mostly from a coaching standpoint. But yeah, I mean, for them, I mean, you have an opportunity to beat a very good team next week or this week, actually, at this point. And
very good team.
Let's see if Tuck coming. Like, let's see.
Yeah.
Keep chopping. Deep water.
Yeah, I mean,
all their slogans.
And he owned up to it, but let's see what actually adjustments they can make this week. Because he did say that there's going to be some personnel changes this week. And
for who?
I was
another
saying,
transfer.
Like, I mean, I'm not exactly sure what personnel changes you're making with what are the 44th most talented roster in college football, but we'll see. Because I mean, I expect Minnesota to just run it down the throat. Morgan will make the throws he needs to, and Minnesota's going to win this game.
Over under Minnesota 350 passing yards.
I'll say under just because like that's not who Minnesota is, and they also lost Chris Altman-Bell to a season-ending injury.
Oh, that's true. We have to mention that.
Against Colorado. So I'm going to expect them to lead on the running game, but
they could.
Michigan State's good against the run. Like they are. But the thing is, like, Minnesota's offensive line is just so experienced and so big, and their running back room is so deep that I struggle, even if that game is close, to see how in the second half Minnesota just doesn't tire them out and start picking up these chunk plays on the ground.
Yeah. Let's move on from that. Let's go to let's actually stay out west with Oregon beating BYU pretty handily. I questioned BYU a little bit. I didn't know how they were going to show up after their crazy win against Baylor 2 weeks ago. And Oregon looked like Oregon when they don't play Georgia.
Yeah.
So, I'm not sure if there's much to say there. Like Oregon is the better team. They should beat BYU 9 out of 10 times, especially at home. But Bo Nix played well. So, I mean, you could take that away. He played
well.
Well.
It's classic good Bo Nix, bad Bo Nix. And more often than not, it's good Bo Nix at home and bad Bo Nix on the road, and that's exactly what we've had so far this season.
Yeah, so
Oregon is still a super talented football team at pretty much every level of their team, both offensively and defensively. They got really good linebackers. They're good, decent pass rushers. Their secondary is experienced, and they always have quality offensive linemen. It was just a question of, is Bo Nix going to play well? And they got a really solid rushing game against a stingy BYU D line, and like it was very clear that this Oregon team is just, and nobody is. We like, this Oregon team is not going to be who they are when you play Georgia, and neither is any of these SEC teams that play Georgia this year, with probably the exception of Alabama. But yeah, I think the takeaway from this game is just has nothing to do with either of these teams. It's just, don't judge a team when they play Georgia, because they're going to get blown. They're going to get blown out, and we just have to live with that.
by the way, do you want to know how many sacks Georgia has this year so far? Guess. Give me a number.
I'm gonna say in 3 games.
Yep.
I gotta go high. I'm gonna say 14.
They have one. They have
One
They have a singular. I believe that's correct. Their defensive ratings are actually not that high, which makes it crazy. All these
is their pressure rate just not high?
Well, I think their pressure rate might be high, but their sack rate is not high, because these quarterbacks just like try to scramble out. You should check that though. I'm not sure if that's correct. I think I read that on Twitter. So take that with a grain of salt.
I think people kind of misuse sacks in a.
Well, yeah. I mean, the reason why I used this stat was to just like.
It's ironic, because you see how good their defense has been through 3 games, and they only have recorded 1 sack. But I'm sure their pressure rate's really high. I'm sure teams are averaging less than 2 yards a carry against them.
Yep. Let's move on. Very rarely do we actually disagree on stuff or on specific teams. I feel like normally we're on the same page, but you were very high in Miami, and I wasn't. And Miami lost to Texas A&M. Both teams played really, really poorly. Tyler Van Dyke was pretty terrible. 21 for 41. Not very that good completion percentage, but Josh Gaddis was very bad. Very similar to what we saw to Michigan in 2019. This offense is literally he ran the Michigan 2019-2020 offense.
They'll figure it out though.
Come on.
They'll figure it out. It took Michigan it took Michigan half a season to get used to that offense. Why would
they stopped running Gaddis stuff? They stopped running Gaddis's stuff. Because Gaddis's stuff, guess what? Guess what Gaddis's stuff does? It gets you to the 10-yard line, the red zone. And guess what? Michigan couldn't score in the red zone. You know what Miami can't do? They can't score in the red zone.
Well, that came down to 2 things, by the way. 1, Miami doesn't have a receiver right now that can catch the ball. And 2,
who's the receivers coach?
Huh?
Who's the receivers coach?
Is it Gaddis?
I think it's Gaddis. Yeah, he was the receivers coach in Michigan too.
So the second thing,
listen, hold on, real quick. He was the receivers coach at Alabama too. So his receivers are his thing. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and like, they're missing Restrepo, who's their best guy, but like, some of those drops they were having were inexcusable. They had, I think, 1 receiver who caught more than 50% of his targets the other night, which is just mind-boggling. And second thing, Mario Cristobal coached maybe the worst game that I've ever seen at the college level, and I'm not exaggerating. The decision-making from him was just so stupid. Like I felt like Miami.
Here's what I'm gonna say. Has he ever been a great X's and O's coach or a game manager?
No, he hasn't. He's been a great recruiter, and he's done a good job finding people.
He's a good recruiter.
Finding coordinators.
He's a good recruiter. His offense made Justin Herbert almost slip out of like relevancy. Okay, and we see what Justin Herbert is. Mario Cristobal. Now, I a lot in the offseason, like Miami fans were super excited, and that makes sense because Miami wasn't very good under Manny Diaz. But I always try to warn people that you need to take a little bit of a step back. Like Mario Cristobal is not going to elevate you to the status of what Jimbo did at Florida State in terms of like national relevancy. Like Mario Cristobal will get his guys. And
Jimbo's system also worked in 2013.
No, I'm talking about like comparisons from like, of course, like Cristobal's not a system, but Like, is Cristobal a championship coach? No,
No, probably not.
no.
But like,
He lost
it's
games in the Pac-12 he shouldn't lose. Or
it's
way more
honestly
talent than everyone else.
it's honestly like to the point where just like we know you can recruit. You're gonna be fine there. Like, but he needs to hire coordinators that he trusts and just let them do their thing. Like, I feel like the general narrative around Mario Cristobal is that he will override his coordinators all the time. And eventually, like, he just needs to take a step back and say, hey, my best team is when I'm not calling plays on offense or defense. And you know who did that a couple years ago? Jim Harbaugh. Jim Harbaugh became pretty much a game manager, and Michigan improved because of it. Miami can get to a level if Mario Cristobal realizes what his strengths are, what his weaknesses are, and uses those to his advantage.
Oregon upgraded
From
from
Cristobal to
Cristobal.
Lanning.
Lanning is better, and Lanning's
Well, yeah, I mean,
Lanning brought in
at least Lanning
really
can at least Lanning can coach one side of the ball.
like Kenny Dillingham's a very, very good offensive coordinator.
Yeah, and I mean, Lanning's a great DC. Like, and he'll call plays on defense. So
like Oregon got a better coach.
We're gonna be fine. I'm just and like we know Lanning can recruit. Like the problem is we don't know what conference Oregon's gonna be in come 2 years from now.
I'm just saying, if the goal is to win football games, like I would rather have Lanning than Cristobal. We've seen Cristobal. We've seen him everywhere. He had he's a great recruiter. He fields competitive teams. He does not field championship teams.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think with the talent he gets, I think they can be a championship team if he realizes if he gets the right guys in place calling plays and realizes what his teams can do when he isn't involved in play calling.
Miami can't even fill up their stadium.
Well, that's a whole nother issue.
Dude, no. But like when they got Cristobal, I thought this was going to mark the change in like how Miami like thinks about football. I thought they were going to go back to like that culture that they had before, but the whole like NIL John Ruiz stuff, along with Cristobal coming in, like they were getting the guys, but it always felt like there was something like inauthentic about it. Like, and I know Cristobal is like a Miami guy, but there's a sinking feeling that he's going to come up short. So
like, what do you mean by come up short though? Because like Mark Richt and Manny Diaz were way worse than like I ever could imagine.
Listen, Miami wants to win the ACC first and foremost. That's the first goal.
And they have no reason not to be able to do that.
Well, I don't think they're good enough.
Not this year, but we never thought they were good enough this year.
Do you really think that Miami's going to beat Dabo maybe up to twice in a year?
They won't have to beat them twice. They don't play in the same division.
Aren't they changing isn't the ACC changing to the top two teams?
Maybe, but like even if they are, that still doesn't guarantee that he's playing Dabo every year.
That's true. Well, I mean, like, I'm assuming Clemson's going to be.
It'll be on a rotation, just like the Pac-12 is. And like, here's the thing: like, Miami should be at worst the second most talented team in the ACC every single year. Because
I agree.
Like, I know I've said a lot of positive things about Mike Norvell lately. He's not out recruiting Cristobal. He's just not. So who else besides Clemson?
Napier.
Who else besides who?
Well, I'm talking about from a recruiting standpoint of Florida. Like,
yeah,
Napier is going to take a lot of those recruits, in my opinion. But
I disagree. But that's
I think the SEC poll is way bigger.
Even so, like Cristobal still probably get the same level of classes as Napier, and Norvell hasn't proven he can do that. Norvell apparently perverts other methods of building a roster.
I think Norvell should be fired. So
I think Norvell.
There's going to be a new guy. There's going to be a new guy in Florida State once Miami's ready to compete.
I think that Mike Norvell is currently the only undefeated coach in Florida this year.
Dude, we can't possibly compare Florida State to what these other teams have done.
Why not? Florida beat Utah, and they're still not undefeated.
Yeah, question. Okay. I feel like a lot of what you're basing this Florida State off of is their win against LSU, which is like they beat like a really LSU spokesperson. But were you really that impressed with LSU every single week so far? Even against Mississippi State, they were fine.
I was pretty impressed with them last week. A
And
complete second half beatdown of Mississippi State.
they scored no points in the first half. Weren't they
It
down
was a good
6?
team, by the way. They didn't score no points in the first half. Did they? They did not get shut out in the first half.
Hold up. We're pulling the score up. I just remember watching Jaden Daniels like pulling my hair out because he was not.
That's fine. That's fine. He looked better than he did against Florida State, which is all I'm concerned about.
I mean, yeah, okay.
Okay, they scored 7 points in the first half. They were down a touchdown. Let's pump the brakes here.
Okay. So 7 points. Okay. Good.
LSU is a team that is going to get better throughout the season, and frankly, they got better throughout this game. They're still dude.
How is LSU improved since the Florida State game?
What do you mean? How have they improved?
Like, okay. LSU we saw week 1.
They ran first of all they ran the ball for 5.4 yards a carry. Daniels looked much better in the pocket than he did against Florida State, and like frankly, like they reshuffled their entire offensive line. Like
I didn't know about that. Will Campbell was starting Cole Dellinger at left guard, who was terrible.
Will Campbell was the only player on that offensive line who was a true freshman, by the way, that kept his position from that Florida State game. They reshuffled their entire offensive line. They scored 31 points against a solid Mississippi State defense, by the way, and they held the air raid to 16.
I was impressed with their defense. I still think the offense has
if Florida State keeps winning games, we're gonna end up saying that's a good win for them because LSU, they now go New Mexico next week. Then they got to go to Auburn, which if they don't win at Auburn, just literally like cut me off.
Anyone can win at Auburn.
If they don't win at Auburn, I'm going off the grid. But then they got Tennessee at home, at Florida, Ole Miss, by Alabama. Like
they can win. I mean, that's a very favorable schedule.
They can win all of these games. And like Tennessee is going to be tough. Ole Miss is going to be tough. Those teams look fantastic right now, but they can win those games. They have more talent than those teams.
But can we just go back to Florida State, please?
Sure. I love talking about Florida State.
And I like Florida State. I don't think Florida State. Wait, hold on. Where do you have Florida State ranked in your top 25?
Oh, I may have moved them down a couple spots just because I had to move some teams up.
Okay. You have ranked.
I'm a judger of what happens on the field. I have Florida State at 21.
Okay. And I'm actually not too bad with that. I mean, I feel like if you had them a little bit higher.
You don't have them ranked. And I was going to text you about it.
I don't have them ranked. There's teams that I like better. I think there are teams that are better.
I think that's fair,
what team? Okay. Look at my rankings. What team in my rankings do you think shouldn't belong there and Florida State should be there instead?
I think you're really high in Maryland, and frankly, I think the only reason you have I think their offense is really good, but frankly, I think the only reason that you have them ranked is because Michigan's playing them this week. You're pretty much doing what the college football playoff does with these mid.
Yeah, we need those TV. I'm actually hired by Fox for the big noon kickoff, and I want to get these ratings up. Dude, Maryland's actually good.
You're pretty much doing.
Maryland beat a really solid SMU team. Okay, I was impressed.
SMU is all right, but you're pretty much doing what the college
3-0.
Dude, this is what the college football playoff committee does with 7-3 Mississippi State every year. They just throw them in at 24.
Dude, okay, look at Maryland's roster though. Maryland's roster's this is the best Maryland team Loxley's had.
I like what they have offensively, and I think they're gonna make a bowl. But I mean, they made a bowl last year, so I like their
dude.
I like their offense.
And you know what? Maryland's gonna play Michigan tough.
I disagree. I don't think Maryland's got a chance at how it's stopping them.
If Maryland can cut out all of the disciplinary issues, like the flat, they have so many penalties last game too. If you watch the SMU game,
yeah, that's a good win.
But they were better than SMU the entire game.
It's a good win. I think so too. But I also think that there isn't a single Group of 5 team that should be in the top 40 this year.
That's fair. The Group of 5 is terrible.
It's the Group of 5. I said this, I think, on my show Sunday night or Sunday morning. Whoever the Group of 5 representative is this year, which by the way, it can't be BYU for those of you that don't know, because they're not a Group of 5 team. Whoever the Group of 5 representative is this year is going to be a 3-touchdown dog at minimum in the New Year's Six.
It might be App State. In all honesty,
maybe,
if they keep winning, because they have that touchdown.
App State is 2 plays away from being 0-3. So
yeah, but they're not 0-3 though.
Yeah, I know they're not, but I'm just saying
No, I agree.
I think it's going to end up being whoever wins the American.
Yeah, I mean, but like the American's really bad this year.
Because like, I mean, I thought the Mountain West had four contenders, but San Diego State and Boise State have looked awful. Jake Haener was carted off the field on Saturday night against USC, and Air Force lost as a 17-point favorite.
Can we talk about that, please? Can we talk about that? Because I had Air Force. They're like, I thought that they were going to run away with that conference in general. I thought
they were too, and then they lost.
Way better than everyone else, and they lost. So, whatever. I mean, yeah, the group of five, pretty terrible. But I mean, I think it'll end up being UCF. Yeah, I'm looking at my rankings right now. Like one team that, again, I did these rankings like very quickly during class. I was very bored, but I had Wisconsin ranked, and looking back at it, I don't think I want them ranked. So
we'll see, because Mertz has been playing well. I think that offense kind of limits what he does, but he has been playing better than he has the last couple of years. I still don't think people should be tricked into thinking he's a good quarterback because he played well against a couple really bad like group of five and FCS teams. But I do think.
Never mind. I don't. I was looking at the composite rankings. I don't have Wisconsin ranked. I have.
Yeah, no. The reason that Wisconsin's ranked in the composite is because the Sagarin ratings look upon them very favorably.
Yeah, I was like, that's so weird. I don't remember ranking Wisconsin.
No, the Sagarin ratings have Wisconsin at 13.
Yeah, I think it's a good segue to go into our rankings overview. So we're gonna do the same thing we did last time. I'm gonna go through my first five, give some support for that, and then we'll go on to yours and maybe compare them to composite and the AP. Number one, I'm sticking with Georgia. They're my number one team last week, and they are dominant, best team in football. Number two, I got Alabama. Again, I had no reason to move them. I think my top 8 might be the copy and paste what I did last week.
I moved a couple of teams around.
Okay, so we'll get to that. Yeah. So I got Ohio State at 3. Again, they crushed. Who did they beat? Toledo. Scored like 77 points. Michigan at 4. Again, JJ season. We know what we see out of Michigan. Oklahoma 5. Clemson 6. Oh wait, that's my 5th team.
You're good.
Yep.
All right. So I have Georgia 1 again, Alabama 2, Michigan 3, Ohio State 4. My top 4 didn't change. Number 5, I moved Oklahoma up to 5. Super impressed in what they did against Nebraska. Dylan Gabriel was playing super good and super well, I should say. But I think Venables has kind of changed that defense. Alex Grinch wasn't a particularly good coordinator at Oklahoma, and whether that was scheme fit or whatnot, but Oklahoma wasn't bad on defense last year and the year before. They were all right, certainly better than the years prior. But this year's Oklahoma defense is who not only lost some key pieces last year, they got a new system in place too, and they're playing very well.
Yeah, no, I agree with Oklahoma. I was debating putting them over Michigan, just because of that Nebraska win even Nebraska is better than the teams Michigan has played so far. But I think that Michigan could beat you in a little bit more ways. So, but those teams are very close for me. At 6, I have Clemson.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I feel like Clemson's not going to move ever off this list. I think they might stick at 6 until they win the ACC championship.
Dude, they're going to end up what they're going to end up doing is if they keep winning games, the college football playoff committee in their first rankings is going to put them at 8, knowing that if they just keep winning and win out, they're going to be in the playoff. But
yeah,
they're going to almost punish for not blowing teams out consistently.
Yeah. Okay, USC is 7. They looked very, very good against Fresno State. Jordan Addison is actually incredible. But I still need to see him a little bit.
He may win the Bletnikoff again.
Yep. I got Texas at 8. I didn't move them at all from last week, even though they did struggle a little bit against UTSA in the first half.
They figured it out.
Yep. Utah 9. I haven't moved them since week 1. Arkansas 10. Struggled against
Missouri State.
And they're coached by what's his face?
Bobby Petrino.
He's gonna be the Auburn hire, right?
That was an interesting one. I don't know who Auburn hired, but I don't know who Auburn's going to hire to replace Harsin, but I certainly wouldn't recommend going the group of 5 route again.
What about Hugh Freeze?
I mean, he carries all sorts of baggage with him.
But that's an Auburn hire if you've ever seen one, right?
Did you see the CBS article the other day that said like time heals like scandals? like they were listing like they were listing. I think they were listing potential like Harsin replacements, and like they listed Hugh Freeze and said like time heals like all scandals.
Dude, Jeff Lebby is like the hottest like coordinator hire.
Yeah, I mean, I would hire him.
Yeah, but like he was involved with that scandal, but like
I mean, I think he's one of the best coordinators in the country.
Exactly.
Right now. But
Hugh Freeze is still a good coach.
Listen, I'm not saying that I wouldn't hire Hugh Freeze. I'm just saying there's a lot of background work to be done.
Exactly. But Auburn would that's a very Auburn thing to do.
I mean,
is hire Hugh Freeze.
I definitely wouldn't recommend hiring a group of 5 coach that underperformed at his previous school and doesn't recruit very well. So
what about that one year they paid all their players? They were like the number 1 recruiting class.
What year was that?
That's when they had Shea Patterson, DK Metcalf. They signed.
Ole Miss?
Ole Miss.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that team scored 40 points every game and went like 3-9. So,
but they had a great recruiting class.
Yeah, dude, they went up 7-0 on Alabama on the first drive, and I was like, oh, maybe Ole Miss just hangs 50 on them, and this is a game. And Alabama ended up scoring like the next play.
Okay, so that's my top rounds on my top 10.
So yeah, my to round up my top 10, I moved USC up to 6 above Clemson, who's at 7. USC's defense is going to struggle at times. It's a work in progress, but I think if USC plays Clemson on a neutral field right now, their offense is going to be more deadly than Clemson's defense. Utah at 8, Texas at 9, and then my beloved Minnesota Golden Gophers at 10. Who?
Soda. I like Minnesota. I don't like him that much.
I know you don't, but they're going to beat Michigan State this week, and we're going to be just on the road until the whiteout game.
PJ Fleck for the Nebraska job?
Haven't thought about that.
See, I like this episode. Like, what I want to do until these coaching vacancies are filled, whenever we talk about a coach we like, I'm just going to fill him into whatever spot. Like,
it's gonna be Campbell or Leipold, I think. For the
Campbell would be a mistake.
Why? He's a good program builder.
Yeah, but I don't think he would do well at a place like Nebraska.
You think Leipold would be a mistake?
No, I like Leipold better.
Well, those were the top 2, at least, odds to get the job.
Campbell's very good at Iowa State because their expectations aren't that high. And so that one year where he got really lucky and overexceeded the expectations.
They're not bad, by the way.
No. They're not bad, but like Nebraska would be mad at the way they're playing. Like Nebraska fans wouldn't be okay with them like losing to Iowa.
I mean, yeah, but like Nebraska hasn't beaten Iowa in like
no, that's what I'm saying.
That's
what I'm saying. But like,
so like, is that really a prerequisite here? Like,
well, okay, but Matt Campbell wouldn't be like the golden child of Nebraska football. He wouldn't be given that leash.
Oh, here's the thing. No matter who you hire, I don't know how the Big Ten is going to look in 2 years when UCLA and USC are in the conference. So Nebraska's probably not going to like have this advantage of just like we're the biggest name program in the West and we should be able to win it. Like they kind of blew their chance at like a huge run with these new divisions. So like what about Matt Rule?
I like Matt Rule, but why would Matt Rule take that job? He's an NFL coach. Okay?
He's going to be unemployed in about a couple weeks, probably.
You're telling me Matt Rule can't get a job in college football as a head coach of like an actual program?
That's not Nebraska,
dude.
Why would he? Program do you envision him taking over?
He's gonna take Penn State once Franklin leaves.
Where is Franklin going?
Anywhere. Like Franklin's agent every single year always says Franklin's gonna leave. Okay.
So does dude. Harbaugh's rumors every single year.
Okay, and Harbaugh tried to leave. Like you tell me Franklin's in it for the long run.
Where is Franklin going? Like
I don't know. That's the magic of college football.
Dude, there aren't many jobs better than Penn State that open every year. And like last year, like we had USC, Oklahoma, LSU, and Notre Dame and Miami all open. We don't have cycles like that.
That's true.
Like Auburn, I am very sure that Auburn will be the best job open this offseason.
Auburn.
And the next job open soon is maybe Florida when people figure out that Billy Napier's not going to win.
Stop. Billy Napier. I don't know why we have like the most exact opposite opinions on both.
Billy Napier gets fired
and Mario
before Mike
Cristobal.
Norvell. Billy Napier gets fired before Mike Norvell.
No chance. No chance.
Imagine.
I can't agree with that take at all.
Imagine.
Yeah. More of what I'm trying to say with the Nebraska thing is that I don't think I think the job is too hard. Like,
do you think
the job
it's
is too hard?
Job?
What?
Do you think it's a desirable job?
Like for a very specific person.
But like
Matt Rule, an East Coast guy, why would like Matt Rule going to Nebraska? When he went to a job no one wanted, and when he went to the Panthers, he went to an NFL job that was going to be really difficult. And
he went to a college job that no one wanted and had him.
Yeah, but the expectations were different. Nebraska wants national championships. Baylor didn't.
Dude, they're probably not getting national championships.
I'm telling you, that's what they want, man.
Can Nebraska start figuring out how to win like 8 games again and then go from there?
They think they have the resources to compete. They want Urban Meyer, man.
Do they have like any like big like brands like in Lincoln?
Yes, dude.
Okay, well there's your resource.
They have money. The program has money. It's just like they were willing to throw money around for everyone, but like.
So who do you envision them taking? Or trying to get?
I don't know. It's a weird job. It is a weird job.
If Nebraska has the resources that we know they do, and they have the brand that we know they do, why aren't they getting a high-profile guy?
I question the brand. When we're talking about football right now, I'm questioning the brand
because like
when a recruit sees Nebraska, are they thinking national champion?
No,
they're thinking 3-8. They're thinking
I'm sitting here and I know they have the resources and I know they hypothetically have the brand, but I cannot see them pulling a guy like LSU or like Miami or like USC did.
They won't.
And like even Oklahoma went and got like a big name coordinator. Like that might be Nebraska's best option. I
agree. So I liked Matt Rule for Nebraska. I said that last week. I don't think he's gonna go there. But like that would be my first. I would call Urban Meyer. He says no.
Dude, Matt Rule at Auburn would be electric. That seems like almost.
Matt Rule at Auburn. I would like.
That would be almost too perfect.
I would very much
that could potentially be like an upgrade from like Malzahn.
I think Matt Rule would do a really nice job with specifically with the boosters there.
I think he could because Malzahn will pull in, or not Malzahn. Matt Rule will pull in the talent of Auburn because they always pull in talent. And like with Malzahn, like he beat Alabama 3 times, but they weren't very consistent. And so like Matt Rule will get consistency out of them.
Yeah, I agree. Going back to Nebraska, I think their plan of action should be trying to locking down one of the better young bright minds, because I don't know if that guy's on the staff right now, but if not, that's who they should get. Because at the end of the day, what we've seen time and time again is you need guys to lead your program who come from, if you want championships, you need guys who come from championship staffs. Okay. You need to. I don't care which Nebraska guy you hire or which Alabama guy you hire. Definitely not Bill O'Brien. Do not even touch him with a 6-foot pole.
No.
But what you do is you look at Ohio State, you look at Alabama, you look at Georgia.
Can we give Joe Moorhead another shot somewhere?
No.
Why not?
I mean, didn't he get his shot at Oregon? Was he the OC of that team? That was really underperforming.
Dude, they won 9 games with Anthony Brown playing quarterback.
I would be fine with Joe Moorhead. I heard that because he has the acting job right now, right?
Yeah.
Which is really weird. I think he just likes to have that job. I don't think he likes the big.
He just wants the title of head coach.
And also, I don't think he likes the pressure that much. I think he liked Mississippi State because it didn't have that much internal pressure. You didn't need to be competing every single year. You just need to have a few years.
Yeah,
I mean, being a coordinator.
he still was canned, but like he was really
Oh no,
good.
he still can, but like, yeah.
He was really good at Penn State as an OC. I thought he did a pretty good job at Oregon last year as an OC. So I mean, maybe that's just what he is.
Let's continue. I love how we talk Nebraska football. Like
Jim Knowles, Nebraska.
What?
Jim Knowles.
Jim Knowles.
At Nebraska.
I think that would be a very big mistake. You need life into the program. You need someone young. Okay, everyone knows Nebraska is like this ancient.
They're not getting
power.
Lincoln Riley.
They know it's an ancient power. They don't need to get Lincoln Riley. Get someone else. Get someone energy.
Would your recommendation be? You know what? I thought of it. Go hire Joe Brady. There you go. I got your solution.
He doesn't like to recruit. You can't hire
Brady.
him. Yeah.
Good. Hire guys to recruit for you. Bring in Ed Ogeron. He can recruit.
Actually, Edo, Nebraska.
Joe Brady, head coach. Ed Ogeron, DC. I solved your problem. There you go.
Dude, wow. Edo's liking his life right now, man. Like,
dude,
why does he want to move? He's like living in like Florida right now. Does he want to move to Lincoln?
Maybe.
He's like retired, dude. He's getting paid like $10 million to not coach.
Yeah, that's true.
I don't know. Like, honestly, here's what I would say. Here's what I would say.
Names.
You know who Nebraska should hire?
Who?
Marcus Freeman a year ago.
Marcus Freeman a year ago?
Yep.
Now, why do you think that would work?
Because he's a young coach. He likes the recruiting aspect. He would bring life into the program. I think he would bring energy.
They can't win games at Notre Dame.
Notre Dame's too big of a job for him.
But by the way, completely off topic, but what if I told you that through 3 weeks, the team that has scored the most points against Notre Dame is Marshall and not Ohio State?
Hey man, and Marshall scored. Didn't they have like 2 pick sixes?
They had 20. Yeah, I think they had one, but they had 26 points. Ohio State 21.
We'll see. We'll see. We gotta keep going. Let's power through this real quick.
All right.
Where am I at? 11 I got Oregon, 12 I got Tennessee coming off a pretty solid week again. 13 I got Penn State going on the road to Auburn, absolutely walloping them. Yeah, Penn State was very good. Kentucky at 14. I really don't like this team that much though. I'm kind of waiting for them to lose so I can move them lower in my rankings.
Kentucky, I agree with you.
Ole Miss at 15. Lane Kiffin's my favorite offensive mind in football. They actually haven't been throwing the ball that much. They're running with Altmaier, correct?
I think Jackson Dart played the other day, actually.
Yeah, did he? I think Altmaier played in the other week, maybe.
Yeah, their defense is very underrated right now.
Yeah, and their running game is very, very good.
Like even Clemson didn't look that good against Georgia Tech on D.
Yeah, and I mean Zach Evans this dude's nuts. He's very, very good. So
yeah. And so we actually are very similar here. I have Arkansas at 11, Oregon at 12, Tennessee at 13, Penn State at 14, Kentucky at 15. So Kentucky right now, and this is kind of the team I want to talk about in this grouping. They are very high in the AP poll. Like number 8.
Top 10, right?
They're 8th, which is way too high.
No chance. But you know the reason why they're that high?
Why?
It's because they beat Florida, who was ranked way too high.
Yeah. So the Sagarin ratings have them at 18. The FPI doesn't have them ranked. And I don't know how we do this every year, but Kentucky always beats somebody. And it's usually honestly Florida because their staff is way smarter than yours and their defense is way tougher than yours and they figure out a way. And
Pause. Mark Stoops, Nebraska.
Dude, that was the original name I brought up when we talked about.
Wait a minute. It fits, dude. It's perfect. They're gonna beat some teams every year. They're gonna have one big win. Everyone in Nebraska.
He's not gonna bring new life to the program though.
Well, okay, but
Kentucky is recruiting well for Kentucky standards, though. I will say that. But so Kentucky. Back to my point. Kentucky always beats Florida every year for some reason now, and it brings this program into these high-powered, high-ranked team that they really shouldn't be, and then they go play Georgia and they get slaughtered, and that's it. They were a top 10 team in 2018, I think it was. They had no business being a top 10 team. They were a top 10 team last year at one point. No business being a top 10 team. I would put money on the table that there are still 6 SEC teams that are better than Kentucky.
I agree. Kentucky to me is very fraudulent. Um, they're such an interesting team, but like if you look
They're
at
like,
the SEC East, I mean, you can understand why. Like Tennessee's been bad, Vanderbilt's been bad, Missouri's been pretty bad, South Carolina's been bad, Florida's been inconsistent, and so that's where Kentucky's wins are coming from, right?
mhm. And like they do, their schedule is pretty favorable. I want to say, like, I don't think they get these good SEC East teams until really late in the year. Like they get Northern Illinois next week. Oh, they have to go to Ole Miss, so there's probably a loss. But like after
And
that,
at
like
Tennessee, they gotta go to
after
Tennessee to
that,
start.
like they get, and they have a bye before Tennessee, by the way. But like they don't play Georgia until late in the year. Like, and I don't know why, but Kentucky like basketball fans have like now like become like the exact same people for Kentucky football.
But they
Like
don't know what they're talking about.
they're like some of the most delusional people I've seen. I go on my Twitter every day to see Kentucky people saying that they're going to be undefeated going to the Georgia game. Like, no, you're not.
It could be. Will Levis was
If they win at Ole Miss and at Tennessee, like we will have some talking to do.
okay.
Just put it that way.
Will Levis, in my opinion, is very, very overhyped and overrated.
Yeah, he throws a good deep ball. Not sure he has any other great qualities.
No, people forget that like the quarterbacks he couldn't beat out at Penn State.
Clifford,
Very mid. We didn't beat out Clifford. Was he there? He was because he transferred as a sophomore.
Taquan Robertson stayed in the program.
Exactly.
He's now the quarterback for UConn.
Levis, I just remember Levis. The only times he went in with Penn State was like he was like the short yardage, like QB sneak guy.
Here's my question though: would you take Levis in Penn State's offense over Clifford right now?
Yeah,
Because like I think I would.
Dude, I don't know why Clifford still plays.
I mean, he hasn't been. He was good. I thought on Saturday. I think
Auburn's bad. Auburn's defense is not good.
It'll also be way easier for him this year because Penn State is actually like went from like the worst rushing team in the country to like one of the best in the country in 1 year.
Yeah, dude, that's that James Franklin running back magic.
Yeah, Singleton and Katron Allen, those 2 guys are good.
Yeah, no, Singleton's incredible, but I don't know. Kentucky, to me, I would be selling them anywhere I can. But let's go on. 16, I got BYU. They lost this week. But I don't know. Like, there's nothing about BYU that I learned from this week. Like, they were the same team I saw the week before.
They were never going to run the table. Like, it was just not going to happen.
No, I got Washington at 17. Super impressed. I wanted to put them up higher. I couldn't bring myself to do it. I need to see him do it again. Oklahoma State at 18. Baylor 19, 20, Minnesota. I hopped on the Minnesota bandwagon a little bit here, but I wasn't willing to make that jump.
Next week when they beat Michigan State, we'll reconsider making that jump.
But we've established that Michigan State wasn't very good.
Yeah, but what if they come out and beat them in East Lansing by 2 touchdowns?
And that'd be I mean, it depends on how they do it. And they lost their top receiver, so
yeah, and like they're still really deep at the position. Like Autman Bell's good, but like they're still really deep at the position.
Yeah, no, I mean, let's see how they do.
Like, honestly, like that's Minnesota's strength. Like they're deep everywhere. Like they have like they go too deep at like every position. So, all right. 16 for me is LSU. We're back on the LSU train. We never left actually. But that's besides the point. 17 BYU, 18 Baylor, 19 Washington, 20 Ole Miss. Ole Miss probably should be higher, and like they're probably better than more than 19 teams right now, or probably not worse than 19 teams. But I just frankly like haven't seen enough of them yet. Like what they've been doing is super impressive, but like I didn't watch the Georgia Tech game because there were like at least 3 other better games on, and like the first two teams they played weren't very good. So like this week, hopefully I'll get a chance to see them, but they just haven't been on my radar yet.
Yeah, I agree there. I'm just like more of where I rank Ole Miss is due to how much I trust Lane Kiffin in this offense based on what we saw last year. So let's go on. Final part of the rankings, last 5 teams. They got LSU at 21. Not as big of a fan, but I'm okay keeping them in the top 25 due to talent and coaching. Florida at 22. I really want to move him out as well. I'm kind of just waiting for him to lose another game. Maryland 23. This team's very good. Offensively, they're going to be very good. Defensively, we'll have to see. They have talent on the defensive end, but the main thing for them is discipline. I believe they had 13 penalties against SMU. And so, like, they were way better than SMU, but those penalties kind of kept SMU in the game. I don't know. I'm interested to see how Maryland plays against Michigan. Michigan's defensive backs have been one of the bright spots that, like, no one expected really out of the Michigan camp. Both Jermon Green and DJ Turner and Will Johnson and Mike Sanders still have been really, really good. So this should be like a really, really good test because Maryland's wide receivers, I mean, Rakeem Jarrett, Demas, like those guys are as talented as anyone besides LSU receivers. So yeah, I'm interested to see how that game plays. I think as of now, they've done enough to be in my top 25. And I'm kind of also basing that off what I felt about them early in the year. Texas A&M at 24. They won a game. Very ugly, very Jimbo, but they won it. So I'm okay with keeping them in the top 25. And then Pitt at 21.
21. All right, 21 for me is currently the second best team in the ACC, the Florida State Seminoles. 22, Oklahoma State. 23, Pitt. 24, UNC. 25, Miami. So I got 4 ACC teams in that those final 5 spots, which I know you're probably not a huge fan of, but I thought Pitt played pretty well against Western Michigan, considering they run a backup quarterback. Miami, I thought severely outplayed A&M and lost the game due to poor special teams and bad coaching. And like UNC, like I know you hate them, but I think they're going to score against anybody in the ACC that they play. And they didn't play this week, so I couldn't move them out.
I mean, it aligns with your criteria as ranking teams, so I can't complain that much. But you don't have Texas A&M ranked, so like Miami lost to an unranked team. What has Miami done in the non-conference other than that game that has really shown you what they are?
I mean, they filled the last spot because I didn't want to put anyone else above them, and frankly, you can be mad about me having them above Texas A&M, but if you watch the game and even looked at the box score, if you box score watch that game, you would have said Miami wins the game 9 out of 10 times. And
yeah, but they didn't win.
I don't think that we're far enough along in the season that head-to-head results have to matter.
I know, but I wasn't impressed with what Miami did in the other 2 games that they played. That were far inferior opponents.
That's fine, but I'm not quite ready to rank your darling Maryland team above them.
Just rank Maryland, bro. Just rank Maryland. Big noon kickoff.
Michigan's going to cover
top 25 matchup.
Michigan's going to cover 17.
Listen, all I know is that reporting directly from campus, these games have been a problem for the student body because everyone leaves after the first half because we're blowing out UConn, we're blowing out Hawaii. I just want to feel excited about a game. Please.
You can be excited about a game. You get to see a top 20 passing offense in the country, but you also are going to score. You also are going to score every time against them.
Over under 3 Blake Corum touchdowns.
Depends. If Michigan's hitting big plays in the passing game, he probably won't get that. But this week's the start of JJ's Heisman campaign. So
it is really, really good. I'm very excited for him to be on the
I've been saying that for the last year.
Because he, I mean, just wait. I
said he should have beaten out McNamara in camp last year.
I said he should start as soon as he stepped foot on campus.
Yeah, I mean, the guy never had less talent than McNamara. He was never a worse player. And people created this shouldn't say people. Some outsiders created this false narrative when he fumbled against Michigan State that McNamara should be playing, but
it wasn't JJ's fault. Harbaugh came out and said that it was on the running back Blake Corum. That fumble was not JJ's fumble. It was a misexchange by Blake
You
Corum.
need to tell that to my Start Your Sunday co-host Harrison Vapnik, who wouldn't stop
Dude,
talking about
Harbaugh went out in the press conference. They asked him, was this JJ's fault? And he said, no, it was actually Corum's fault. He didn't get the ball. He didn't receive the ball. It was supposed to be a run.
Yeah, I mean, I believe you. Like JJ is better than Cade.
I saw something that said that JJ can't play in big games. And I was like,
the biggest game he's played in is Georgia in the last drive.
yeah, and he was actually pretty good against Georgia.
Yeah, he was really good in that drive.
And guess what? Georgia's backups are probably better than any defense in the Big Ten.
Well, way better than McNamara was in that game by far. Like,
yep. Okay, we got to wrap it up. It's been a really fun episode. Got coaching talk, got top 25 rankings. So a lot of fun. We'll see if we can squeeze one of these in later in the week for the best bets, but I'm not quite sure about that yet. It's a pretty busy week for me, but we'll try. We'll be a little bit active on Twitter. So if we don't have a podcast, check us out on there. And again, thanks for listening.